The mic was on. Good job I didn't say anything embarrassing, wasn't it? It's me. I am here. Good evening, folks. Welcome to the stream. Hope everybody's well. Been a couple of weeks, so thought it was about time. Try and do something. Yeah, it's going to be a bit sporadic over the next, well, up until summer. Work is nuts. It is truly, completely and utterly blown up out of all proportion. So, yeah, it's getting a little tough to get the energy and stuff. However, I am actually writing a new script, so I hopefully will be working on some of that this weekend. I am reviewing Zardoz. Yes, finally got round to it. I've been meaning to do it, and I'd actually started it at one point, and now I'm going to actually be doing it. I've actually started the script and all that kind of stuff. I've watched it through again for the, for the review. I'll be watching it again probably tomorrow. It's an interesting film. It's one of those films that really a lot of people mock. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in it, though. It's not a badly made film. It's sort of a mid-budget. I think it was about $1.5 million back in, what was it, 73, I think it was made. So it's like, it clearly needed more budget, but it's got that kind of like Borman eccentricity in it. A lot of his kind of more experimental kind of like style, which is going on and all that kind of stuff. You can see there's there's aspects of the film which are wanting for a bit more money, but the weirdest stuff is generally kind of down to just Borman really kind of pushing the boat out just a little bit too far. But I honestly don't think I could describe this as a bad movie. It's just a little misdirected in some respects in certain places. But on the strength of that, I'm going to be watching that as well at some point. I picked that up for £7, I think it was. It's like the anniversary edition. I haven't watched this in a very, very long time. I was a very young child, I think, the last time I saw this film. Probably on the TV, if I remember rightly. So this will be quite something to sit down and watch again. I watched about the first 10 minutes of it, and it's like kind of crikey, I did not remember how extensive that opening segment is. It's been that long a time, so I'm kind of looking forward to watching that again. That's going to be kind of interesting, a little outside my normal wheelhouse for the channel, but I do watch some normie films as well. Another film I watched just recently was Downfall. Now, if you haven't seen this film, most people will know it from the memes, because there's a bit in it where Hitler has this cabinet meeting going on, and he just descends into this bloody great rant against all his generals and all this kind of stuff. And there's all his generals kind of around him, and one of them's kind of like protesting that he's basically slandering his own military. And it's like that. A lot of people, when they see that thing, it's usually with like kind of like redone subtitles and all that kind of stuff. But this film is frigging fantastic, and I do mean that. It is, by all accounts, incredibly historically accurate. It gives an interesting insight into the collapse of a madman's empire ambitions. He goes into this sort of huge amount of denial. It's none of it's his fault. None of it's his fault. It's like everybody else has betrayed him and all this kind of stuff. The lead actor in this is just incredible, and some of the action that goes on in it is just it's not an action film. Most of it's talking. But some of the, when you see the kind of like the attack on Berlin and stuff like that, it's apart from anything else, that's quite prescient. Understanding what it means when an army attacks a city and that kind of stuff, and the kind of warfare that's involved in that sort of stuff. But yeah, and interestingly enough, just for a little bit of a contrast to today's events and all that kind of stuff, the Russians are actually the good guys in this. Oh, crikey. Dear, oh dear. Bruno Ganz is an amazing actor. Yes, he died a few years ago, didn't he? But good God, he's good in that. I'm going to have to see if I can find some other films with him in that hopefully with English subtitles and stuff like that. Hello, Spike. Long time no see. Got a bit of COVID lurgy. Oh, mate. Oh, well, I hope you get well soon. I hope you're not feeling too bad. It's kind of still going around a bit. There's a new variant as well, which is very exciting. I believe this one is raspberry flavoured. So if you can't laugh at it, you're just not going to carry on, are you? Dear, oh dear. But anyway, I got beer. This has been hard earned this week. Yeah. I'll tell you what my work... I'll just give you a brief example of what my work life is like at the moment. I've got to do what's called a small-scale musical for work, so I'm doing the technical for that. We've ended up on props acquisition, organising a load of stuff, set design, lighting design, although the lighting design is very minimal. But it says, oh, how long do you need on the morning to get that done? I says all day. And they just looked at me and went, you got till 10:30. And I'm like, huh. So the shit's going to hit the fan on that one. But we will deal with it as it comes. It's quite amazing sometimes, when you're talking about kind of technicians and how technicians generally get regarded in theatre. It's kind of like that, but a lot more extreme where I am at the moment. It's like, just walk into the building and the set will be done. It's like, nah. Simon's in the house. Hello, Simon. Simon will recognise these because he's just picked these up recently. I am particularly excited about that one. This one is not such a good film, but it is nice to have a copy of it in a decent quality. Because the version I had was really, really rough. And of course this is uncut, as opposed to the version that I got, which had a few seconds of cuts at least. Main cut was the pitchfork killing. It's a weird film. For those who don't know what Delirium is about, it sort of follows this sort of shadowy cabal who have kind of... one of their members goes off on a bit of a rampage across the countryside. And it's following this guy and some of the investigation and all that kind of stuff that's going on. And then about 3/4 of the way through it, he's gone. So, yeah. It's a very, very strange film. It's not quite got its shit together, but I'm glad to see it's got a proper Blu-ray release. But of course, Night of the Demon, which is one of my guilty pleasures. I do like this film. I enjoy it. I always feel sorry for Crazy Wanda. And it's utterly guilt-free in some respects because The people who are getting attacked and killed by the demon and stuff are like, to a man or woman, just absolute dicks. What we're saying for the film is, unfortunately, not feeling too good. Just want to say hello. Oh, well, everybody's ill, aren't they? It's okay, Simon. You go look after yourself. And if you've got the energy, go tinker with your whopping great big aliens gun. Your smart gun. I'm kind of impressed by that. I saw Simon posted pictures of the package, and it's like kind of just about the same size as his damn car. That's my theme tune whenever there's a killing. No, it's not when there's a killing. It's when they're doing the jury. It's when the jury's in session. That's when it happens in that. But yes, it's the Mastermind theme, and it's always a little distracting for British viewers of the film because obviously it has very, very different connotations, to say the least. But yeah, Night of the Demon. I haven't watched this one yet. I am going to be watching that real soon. Just check it out. But it is, it's got 2 discs in it, plus a poster, plus a little booklet. It's a nice little package. So congratulations to 88 Films for both of those. At some point, I believe it's soon. It hasn't come out yet. I think I Miss You, Hugs and Kisses. I was contemplating doing that as a watch along, but I think it might be a bit too boring for most. It isn't the most compelling film, though it is actually very closely based on it. Well, I say closely based. It's not far off of a real life case. It was based on this case of this murderer, Peter Demeter. I believe it's Peter Demeter, not Peter Demeter. It's kind of got some interesting things going on, especially because the crossover with real life, and it was almost. It was almost a film that was kind of designed to be kind of poking a finger at this guy. So yeah, Night of the Demon is hilariously bad. Yes, it is. Yeah, and the thing is, yes, it's bad, but it's not awful bad. It's very watchable bad. And you know, it's so full of enthusiasm. Is the thing. You can feel the joy of the filmmakers as they're doing this thing, going, what we're going to do now? Let's have a couple of Girl Scouts, kind of being forced to sort of stab each other. It's like this Bigfoot character going, stop stabbing each other. Oh dear, yeah. It does. It does deliver the groom. I think you meant gore there, didn't you? Yes, it does. We should do a watch along Night of the Demon some night. We have done it before, but I'm very much open to doing it again. It is on YouTube somewhere. But I highly recommend, if you like the film, definitely get the Blu-ray. Delirium is more one for people who want to get a decent copy of the film for their Video Nasties collection. Is really kind of what that's good for. I don't think it's a film that will kind of get many fans on its own merits. It's just a little bit off. It's a bit janky. Girl Scouts always make me think of Airplane. Yes. So tonight we're going to be watching The Stuff. Link is in the description, so if you want to get yourselves all sort of ready to go with that, then just get yourself in position for that, and we'll get to it at some point fairly soon. I went out for a nice walk today. I went over to a country park and had a really nice kind of wander around. It's quite early. I say early in the morning. It was about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. Nice and quiet. So I had my camera out. I kind of came across this bird spotting hide, so I just kind of went up there and had a play. It's very good. It's very good. It's very nice to do. Although my motorbike, is not charging the battery these days, so it's a little bit kind of like, oh, if I go out, will it start? So I'm having to charge the battery up every week at the moment, just so I can actually start the damn thing. It's a bit of a pain in the butt, but there you go. But it was nice to be out on the bike on such a lovely day. It's just been, very pleasant. It's cool but sunny, not cold. It's really good. It's really good. But yeah. I think when you guys start giving me a thumbs up, we'll have a look at the first film. Then we'll see where we're at after. You may be sick, but you still have beer. Excellent. My friend insisted on, he says, because Irish lad, he was that kind of like, do you want to come out after work for a pint of the black stuff? But my colleague was feeling so down, so that we kind of went, shall we just go out for lunch? Let's go have a pub lunch. We did that the other day. It was really nice. It is nice to do that because those two colleagues in particular are really just, they're good people. They help me keep my head on my shoulders. It's very hard sometimes with the job that I have. First film. I honestly don't know Blue Iris. I had it in my head that maybe we'd do something, but we'll see where we get. Because quite frankly, it's been a long week, so Kerry's kind of ready to go. Am I ready to go? That is the question. Yes, I am. Now, The Stuff is one of those films that I kind of got to know back when it was on VHS, and I always remember that really lurid cover and I don't want to say graphic, but certainly very evocative images on the back, like with Chocolate Chip Charlie, isn't it? Again, and all the stuff coming out, and then the Doberman with that. It's like I have fond memories of it just because of that, apart from anything else. But it is really quite a fun film. I think we're going to have a good time with this one. Slancha. Is it a double tonight? I don't know. Probably not. I think I should be good to do another one next week, and we can make it a double. And I think, can I? Can't even suggest Tyranny is next to the second film. I had it last month. No, you can't. No. I think for all the suffering we had to go through for that film, we got it out of the way, and it was just for you, sir. Angora is where I saw it, and then it was on video. So we've got a couple of people ready to go, so I think we'll get cracking. It is 8:15, so yeah, let's get on with it, and we'll have a bit of fun with this film. So hover over that go button, folks. We'll go on the count of 3 and go on go. So 3, 2, 1, go. It's a cocaine mill. It's one of the small mercies of life that the stuff never got a porn parody. See, this is what everybody should do when they find something weird coming out of the ground, is just immediately stuff it in their gob. Bought it when I was 10 and then went straight home to watch it. My mum walked in as a sunbathing lady expressed back to the cellar. I think the only video that I ever picked up when I was underage, I actually bought was Night of the Living Dead, and I had to go back home and get a letter from my mum. It was fair enough. That's the law. They can't sell it to under 18s, and I had no way of showing my age. So, don't you eat that yellow snow. The British extra, the kicking Spielberg's balls. Isn't that cool? Extra is very much kind of like, well, it's not really a kick in his balls, but it's more a kind of like, shall we say, a bit of a nod and a wink, to say the least. I love it when you get those special kind of like introducing type credits, and it's in the box. It just looks really weird to me. Has to be said, this is a really nice version of this film. Extra is a great film. Yes, it is. Yes. Very much enjoy it. Is the stuff supposed to be a type of yogurt or ice cream? It's an organic material, isn't it? Nobody really quite knows what it is, but it's sold like as a mousse or a kind of whipped cream type dessert. What to think of these days? What with Night of the Living Dead being public domain and ubiquitous on the internet? Yeah. I mean, when I got it, there wasn't really any internet, so it's just a sort of. I see. I like to think of it as more kind of slightly more liquid Twinkie cream, and I reckon Twinkies probably do as much damage as this stuff does. It's one of the fun things, though, isn't it, with these films, as light and as frivolous as they can be. There's so often that bit of satire shoved in there. It's the opposite of a probiotic, yes. It has a little bit of the video drone in this, doesn't it? With some of the TV stuff. You love Twinkies. I find them curiously alluring on occasions, but a little more than that. I think I always slightly regret eating them. Typical horror movie trick: make characters that are so unlikable that one rejoices when they die. It's kind of the key to the guilt-free horror, isn't it? And that's like, like I say, Night of the Demon. Isn't that Mercedes McCambridge? I don't know. We'll soon find out. Don't think it is. No, I don't think they could have afforded her. But then again, she was in a Jess Franco film, wasn't she? So he's like a proto Nicolas Cage, isn't he? Best thing about the stuff and Q for me is Michael Moriarty. He really steals the show. Less so in this, though. Maybe the white Q is better in this. I think it's a more general thing than that, DC. Um, Although perfectly well applies to someone like that. But the whole story is really kind of based around that whole thing of it's more about corporate uh, kind of behaviour. This sort of utterly amoral, unsympathetic kind of profits at all costs kind of thing, which is when you think about it, it's probably even more relevant now than it was even at the time. Because all of that stuff's becoming like further and further exposed, so we're very well aware of that kind of stuff. You're going to be desynced to hell. We're currently at 7 minutes and 12 seconds. Oh God. It's funny though, isn't it? DC. I mean, that's the thing. Films like this, a lot of people think are something of an anachronism. I guess they're kind of old, and people have a tendency to feel they're kind of irrelevant, and it's like they are so much not irrelevant. As cheesy as this film can be, as frivolous as it can seem, it does have that thing that's going on in it. And the best example of that I can think of is something like Videodrome, which is it has those kind of things which are those aspects which are tied very much to the time. Stuff like the use of video, satellite TV, that kind of stuff. The concerns that were kind of circulating around that sort of stuff, but then it weaves in all the sort of ideological kind of warfare sort of stuff on top of it. And this film isn't as sophisticated as something like Videodrome in how it tells the story, but it uses it very much as the basis for the story. It's the driving force of what's going on. And it's easily digestible, kind of like the stuff itself. Methinks we won't be seeing Al Cliver tonight. Oh, sorry, Spike. I tell you what, if we do a double bill next week, we'll see if we can find an Al Cliver movie. Just for you, sir. Come on, don't piss on hospitality, kid. That's just the numbers, kid. Keeps you healthy. Alright, Simon, you take it easy. Feel better soon. What I was reading on IMDb about that stuff, the actual material that makes the stuff, is it involves the mixture involves like fishbone meal, and apparently it stank really, really badly. I always found the sound levels in this are probably realistic for the kind of stuff that they're doing and all that sort of stuff, but it doesn't feel right in terms of this being in a movie. Because you'd imagine that music should be really kind of blaring. Of course, it isn't. We need to hear the dialogue, yada yada yada. If they were actually filming it, they wouldn't need to have it really, really loud because it's going to get overlaid, etc., etc., etc. But still, Turns out the really evil part about the stuff is the lactose intolerance it produces. Heroes just farting themselves to death until their, spark ignites the methane. I think it's supposed to be a commercial shoot and stuff, actually, as much as anything now, Richard. He's kind of an interesting character, isn't he? In some respect, he's a little bit kind of like skeevy and devious. Uh, Not necessarily your box standard hero type for a movie. Troll 2 had to Google, couldn't remember where it came from. Yes. It's the infamous film. I've never much enjoyed Troll 2, not even kind of ironically. I've always found it a little bit too ridiculous. What is Mo short for, Morris? I assume so. Was fur acceptable in '85? Sort of, yeah. Yeah, if it were high fashion stuff like that. Although there was pushback, as I remember. Do seem to remember some adverts in the '90s where they were like anti-fur sort of stuff, and it's like models walking down the catwalk, and they've got their furs on. They sort of take them out, and then they get a skinned animal out and stuff like that. It's like it was pretty grim. Kid does his own stunts as well. It is a good job he doesn't actually piss on hospitality, isn't it? Has to be said, they're not very well sealed, are they? And seriously, the security around here is really, really kind of crap if they can't just catch a little kid like this. Troll 2 is really hard work, much like The Room. Very little desire to watch it either again. Larry Cohen, Bruno Mattei, etc. Very rewatchable. I struggle with Bruno Mattei's stuff in general, but particularly the stuff with Claudio Fragrasso is where he's involved. But yeah, yeah. I've tried to watch a few of the really kind of like famous ones like SS Goes and things like that, and that's really fucking hard work. And I watched a lot on Nazi exploitation. Is this a stuff supermarket? Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's um, when you get those big things, then that's all the shops seem to kind of show. And I remember working in an Argos one time, and the Teletubbies when they were big, or previous to that, The Simpsons. It's like you just have massive displays of those things. You feel the same about Possession. See, I disagree, but I mean, it's fair enough. I find a lot of very rewarding stuff in Possession when it comes to the story and how it's told, and the directorial choices apart from anything else. If you like Bruno Mattei, then more power to you. Far be it from me to tell you you're wrong about something that you enjoy. Yes, it is, Richard. I never really thought of Possession as Lovecraftian, but yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from. I'm odd. I enjoy a movie that is intentionally bad, where there's no pretension. That's the thing. That's the thing. That's where I would quibble. That's not to say like I'm right and you're wrong, but when a movie is intentionally bad, then I generally hate it. When it's bad because circumstances just made it bad, but there's an earnestness behind it, I can generally quite enjoy the film. There's a film called Enter the Devil, which is I believe there's a Blu-ray release of it now or something like that, which I've been meaning to get hold of. That film is, generally speaking, production values wise and all that kind of stuff, not a great film. But they took what they had and made the most of what they could do with it. I mean, the countryside around there is incredible. It's all based on local legend as well, so there's a lot of local interest in that, but it's all kind of like local actors and stuff like that going on, and it's a great little film. If you look at something like The Room as well, which is the classic example these days, it's the most prescient example. That film, Tommy Wiseau really did believe he was making something amazing. He truly believed that he had made an Oscar-worthy film. He spared no expense, and this is one of the mysteries behind it: is where did he get all the money for it? But he filmed it on digital and film, so essentially 2 camera crews and all this kind of stuff, and did it in a way that no film of that nature should ever be made. Even full-on professional films don't tend to do that unless there's a very specific reason to have multiple cameras going. And it's like one of the charms of that movie is it is that there is that earnestness going on. But when you see something like the Asylum films and things like that, things like Sharknado and stuff like that bore the hell out of me, because they're not bad because of circumstance. They're bad because somebody's gone, this is what a bad movie is, and we want to make that. And it's very difficult to recreate that. No, it's all right, DC. You know me, I speak my mind, but I kind of figured that's where you were coming from. Probably had dog food on his neck, so it would kind of lick. The Room is an amazing, so bad it's good movie. It's one of those, I think it's harder to watch when you're sat on your own. I think it is one of those films that really does benefit from from a communal thing. So the only way I can really enjoy that film is with something like riff tracks or something like that. The riff tracks of it is really quite good. I recommend it if you can get hold of it. Fairly certain I had a Lampy bias with Possession, and I watched it off of the back of the. It's one of the things I do these review for is because occasionally you get a film like that and you go, well, not that many people watched it, and I like to give a bit of a shout out sometimes to films that I just really really kind of like enjoy, which is what the summer season critiques were about. Unfortunately, it never really got that many views, but you got films like Holy Motors and The Man Who Fell to Earth and films like that in there, and they're really enjoyable to write about. Not really in my kind of core demographic for this channel, I guess, but they never did very well. But I'd still hold them up as some of my best writing. Watching it stoned is the best way to watch it. English is a third language, so sometimes get things. Oh no, don't worry, man. Seriously. I know. I would never. I will not kind of just. Whenever I say something like that, if I disagree or anything like that, or seem to disagree, it's not with any kind of malice. It's all part of the conversation. And you are welcome if you do disagree with me to disagree. Of course you are. I ain't the be all and end all of the judgment of films. Not by any means. Hell, I like. You've seen kind of how many Jess Franco films I got. I should probably go through my Jess Franco collection at some point with you guys. Are you a Larry Cohen fan? His film. I wouldn't say I was a fan specifically, but I've enjoyed the films that I've watched. I like these two as a kind of like on screen pair. They're there's quite a bit of chemistry between the two of them. Need to grab more beer. Oh my god. I really ought to get a beer fridge just underneath here so I can just go and just keep supplying myself with beer. Flora says yes, Jess Franco collection video, please. We'll do that as part of a Ramble-Aholic or something like that. I did just pick up. Where are you? Demons Blu-ray. Also picked up. Oh, where is it? There it is. See if I can get that out. Shining Sex. Which will probably be the next Franco file. I'm overdue doing one of those. I'm kind of tempted at some point just to go, right, okay, I'm just going to do like 3 or 4 of the films and then sort of kind of get a few more Franco files up, because there's plenty of the movies up there that I haven't got done. A couple of them I haven't watched yet. I got the Sadist Baron von Klaus, which I've got to have a look at as apart from anything else. So there's that. There's Cecilia Shining Sex, amongst a few others. Night of the Eagles I've watched, but I've got to review that at some point as well. Didn't realise Michael Moriarty is 6'3". He does look tall, doesn't he? Is this their audition for Lethal Weapon? Yeah, for such a low budget film, the effects are not bad in this film. Yeah, they've aged a little bit, but it's still cool. It's still fun. Isn't that the funny thing, though? I mean, practical effects. People go, "Oh, but yeah, it looks fake and all that kind of stuff." I go, "Yeah, well, CG more often than not looks fake as well." But the thing is, practical effects, as ropey as they may look, that's a very stylistic shot. I'll just go on about that with the backlighting and all that kind of thing. It is a very cinematic film. It has to be said. It's not. Cohen's not gone out of his way to kind of like just make a really, really cheap and nasty movie. He's making the best movie he can. Oh, that's brilliant. You know what? I forgot about that with the guy half his face taken off. Imminently, my friend is coming around to drink beer and relate endlessly about global crisis, yada yada yada. I should be disappointed soon watching this again tomorrow. Yeah, good. Well, I hope you enjoy your friend's company. And I hope your friend's not feeling too down about all that kind of stuff. Sometimes your friends just need an ear to yell into, don't they? Or to moan into. That's a lot of stuff. Does anyone know if that is Brian Moriarty's real hair, or if that's a hairpiece? I can't stop looking at it. I assumed it was his, but he's just got that very kind of sort of droopy kind of thing. But I couldn't tell you if it was a hairpiece or not. That's almost like getting run over by Ronald McDonald, isn't it? See, you got the whole kind of corporate thing going on. It's like they don't care what it is as long as it's popular. There's all these kind of films with these sorts of themes and kind of very contemporary stuff, which is, just like I say, it's always got to be uh, eternally relevant. These problems never got fixed and they're not new. Which I should get a merch store, shouldn't I? With a shirt that says "It's not new," something like that. This film is far fetched, but it is at least more realistic than BBC Cover Dog. Yeah, I don't know about that, man. The stories are always more complicated than you tend to find in the media. I do have my sort of go-to news analysis kind of sites, which are a bit more kind of they tend to explore the issues on a much wider basis, or at least not a kind of party centric sort of basis, for instance. But it's healthy to. I mean, it's healthy to kind of try to look at several different sources, some which you won't necessarily kind of agree with. It's a whole kind of crisis with this whole sort of thing of the whole scale deplatforming of certain points of view on stuff is it has unintended side effects. See, now you got me looking at his bloody hair. I think that's real. I don't think that's a wig. It's a little too light and breezy for a wig. You'd expect a wig to be a bit more dense, wouldn't you? Is anyone else getting fame vibes from that ad? It's very of the time, isn't it? I wouldn't get too kind of like. Let's not get at each other's throats over the politics. It's all pretty wretched at the end of the day. Oh my god. See, that's my era of computer games. That's a 42 bacteria that will help your gut digest stuff much, much easier. Only yeah. That's a hell of a line, isn't it? It kills the bad stuff inside us. My first computer was the ZX Spectrum as well. ZX Spectrum 48K with the rubber keyboard. What a great computer. And to say great, could not because it was necessarily the best at doing games and stuff like that, but it was very kind of open for you to learn how to program and do all that other stuff as well, which was really, really kind of cool. I do remember programming a couple of very, 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 very basic things in BASIC, funny enough. Tried a little bit of machine code, never got very far with that. But by the time I left college, I'd learnt COBOL, Fortran, Pascal, BASIC. You had the 128K Spectrum. Yes, we had the +2 after the 48K, which is a great computer. Oh god, the sound was so much better on there 128. I very, very vividly remember being blown away by the soundtrack to Auf Wiedersehen Monty, the Monty Model game. That was astounding. It was never really 30 minutes. It was more like about 5 or 8 minutes, generally speaking. Felt like half an hour though. Gremlin graphics games were always an absolute bitch because they were really, really difficult to get the sound settings right. Oh my god, that is awful, isn't it? It's kind of fun, isn't it? It's this whole sort of body snatchers thing going on. And I love the fact that he's sort of like he's so desperate not to eat this stuff, and he's right. He's a smart kid and all that kind of stuff. He's desperate enough not to eat it that he'll eat shaving foam instead. Always nicknamed the Spectrum 128 as the radiator. Yeah, because the old one had a whopping great heatsink on the side, didn't it? What they called the toast rack. The first of the 128s were like that. See, that's very 80s, isn't it? With the 3D glasses on, just taped to his head. Hopefully, the film wasn't so low budget that they just glued it to his forehead. It's really cool lighting in this film. And again, you got this shot that's very, very Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So this film really does, it borrows from other films in this kind of genre. Excuse me. It's very 1978 Invasion of the Body Snatchers. You know what, Spike? I mean, I actually kind of I haven't watched it for a long time, but I want to rewatch the original. It's surprising, yeah. But that film, the original Invasion, is it's just not as available as the remake. You can sort of understand it in some respects, but oh, so they have got a copy of it out now. So last time I had a look for it, it wasn't around. There's an Arrow version of it. Oh no, that's the remake. Is it a 4K version of Invasion? You're gonna have to get it. I had a really kind of nasty copy of the original, just a real kind of light bare bones one. But the original is actually a really interesting film in its own right. Um, Considering the time it was made, it was a lot more risky in some respects as a filmmaker to make a film like that. The 70s had that kind of counterculture kind of thing going on. A lot more in the kind of mainstream and stuff like that. A lot more kind of willing to challenge certain things. Um, so when you see the original, it's always worth bearing in mind the kind of filmmaking environment that it was actually made in was a lot more hostile to certain ideas. Although ostensibly the film is a very much a kind of McCarthy era kind of story. I believe you're right there, Kieran. Yep, you're correct. But I got it on Blu-ray, 14.59. I'm going to put it on my list. Hardly go to the cinema at all these days. I'm going to watch Baz Luhrmann's Elvis. Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, really? Okay, that might be interesting. Um, hmm. I got no drive to go to the cinema. There's films I want to watch, but I mean, even before all the COVID and that kind of stuff, my interest in going to the cinema because the experience is just not that fun for me. Um, the cinema etiquette has gone right down the drain over the last like 20 years. Especially since mobile phones kind of like, become so ubiquitous. It's like uh, the Batman was very good. I will be looking forward to it when it comes out on Blu-ray. I love the farting noises coming from the stuff. I think it's the point with Baz Luhrmann stuff. Baz Luhrmann really does have theatrical kind of tendencies. So when you look at his films, that's kind of what he's trying to do is make a theatre piece, but it's a film. So there's that kind of thing going on, the aesthetic of live of a live show, like a stage show. And it's not to say I'm a big Baz Luhrmann fan, but I do appreciate the fact that he does something which is relatively unique with his visual style and directorial style. Oh, and I totally get your Blue Iris. I mean, I would always go on, kind of like an afternoon or a morning screening if I could, when there's a lot less people. I just don't generally enjoy the communal aspect of watching films at a cinema. Avoid the oiks. Love how you put that. It's not really a. I mean, for me, it's not a like kind of. I don't want to be in there with the plebeians, but it's more just. I'm not that big a fan of crowds and the selfishness of some people when kind of like they're sat at the front row with their bloody mobile phone glaring away and stuff like that, or kind of like just chatting about something. I know it's what we're doing here and all that kind of stuff, but that's what we're here for. If we go to the cinema and paying all that money, the kind of money where you can go, I can actually buy a film for what I'm paying for in here. If I'm trying to really kind of enjoy the film and it's just a bunch of noisy buggers at the back and just chatting about all sorts of stuff, it's like really just gets on my nerves. And I just don't enjoy the film. Then I've thrown 15 odd quid away. So that's partly the multiplex kind of thing, though, isn't it? Multiplex experiences, it's the fast food of cinema. That said, I might look into going to the art house cinema in town. Might have a look at what their program's like these days, that kind of stuff. They have some interesting stuff on, and an adventurous sort of program as well, which is not just like kind of current stuff. Good night, Pete. When I watched Gravity in 3D, some youth behind me loudly proclaimed, "It's a dream." When converse with the deceased Clooney. Yeah. Yes. Pour the kerosene over his face. This seems like a very bad idea to me. There's this Curzon Cinema not too far from me. I think they do interesting stuff. Yeah, we've got the art house picture, or picture art house, whatever. Art house, picture house, whatever. In town, it's a bit of a chain, but they tend to have a lot more kind of variety and stuff that they put on. Although I was very disappointed with their screening of Dune. That was a bit of a shit show. See, I don't mind when people are really, really into the film. For me, that's not such a bad thing. But it's just the general disruptive kind of stuff that goes on that annoys the hell out of me. See, that's a really kind of cool effect. We know how it's done and all that kind of stuff, but... I mean, you can imagine being in the cinema in 42nd Street back in the 70s or something like that. That would have been quite something. I did enjoy when I had Straw Wiseman on, for Fight for Your Life's writer. and they were talking about the being in the cinema when people started kicking off and there's riots going on and shit like that. That's like, wow, okay. There's a few cinemas near me, one with more mainstream titles and a pair of smaller cinemas inclined more towards the art house. See, when I say the art house cinemas, I don't necessarily mean that you're going to go watch films that are just, somebody staring blankly into a sunrise for an hour and a half in glorious black and white and that kind of stuff. But the program tends to be kind of a bit more skewed to more adventurous stuff, and there's a good provision for non-mainstream stuff that you won't necessarily get in the multiplex. But they tend to take a lot more care with the audiences and stuff like that in places like that, which is a nice thing. I will never forget the little cinema I went into up north, and it's just, good God, it was teeny tiny. There's probably no more than 100 seats in there. Makes me long for the return of porn cinemas. People can... Oh my God, I can't even imagine going into one of those places. They've got to be funky as hell. Oh, that must have been awesome, Iris. Bring back 42nd Street. I think it was a very unique experience in film. Kind of riotous and deviant. Yeah, you're going to feel comfortable, because you see those really seedy cinemas, like in things like films like Maniac and stuff like that, and it's just like, you just imagine having to peel yourself off the seat after. I've never understood it as well, the idea of going to a cinema to watch porn. Avengers Endgame at IMAX first night midnight showing was an amazing experience. Fair enough. I did enjoy as you well know, I enjoyed that those first three phases, was it, of the Marvel universe. But I can't say I'm particularly interested in going any further. See, the new Spider-Man is kind of out on Blu-ray soon, very soon. Don't know, might pick it up, might not. Oh, DC, yes. Undoubtedly, Jeffrey. Of course they would. Not that I think that these things, these places shouldn't exist. I'm very pro porn. I think it's generally speaking, there's no, of course there's exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, it's a perfectly healthy part of anyone's life if that's what they're like. I'm not holding with the whole kind of it just totally corrupts you and all that kind of stuff. I think that's by and large bollocks. So interesting opticals going on there. I don't know what the law would be generally speaking. I imagine it would be technically illegal, but the cinemas probably, shall we say, turn a blind eye to the worst of it. I know. It is one of those things. You ask anybody who works in a cinema that kind of like after a particularly boisterous screening, how much mess they have to clear up just in a regular cinema. All I can say, there's probably some really powerful anti like kind of like deodorant stuff going on. See, all the future consumers of the stuff are now going, this is a bit gritty. Not quite sure what you're talking about there, Kieran, but my imagination is going. Yeah, that was pretty grim. You know what? I don't think that was in the original version that I watched of this film, where the guy gets run over by the truck and cut in half. That's quite an idea there, DC. Sassy little kid. I don't know much about SpongeBob. It was a little bit kind of after my time, but from what I do understand of it, it's that kind of era of cartoons. It's quite interesting because there's a lot of multi-level jokes going on. There's something there for the adults in the house as well. It's kind of in that tradition of like pantos and things like that. I think Society would have to be one of those bring your own media type things. I don't think it's on YouTube, but I can't say I've looked. So I'd be surprised if it was, but if it is, then sure. It's been a very long time since I've seen Society. Really ought to get it on DVD or Blu-ray or something. See, this militia that's turned up here, they always kind of remind me a bit of the SWAT team in Zombie Creeping Flesh to some degree. There's something about the costumes, I guess, and the way they're performed. It just reminds me of that kind of like low budget Italian exploitation kind of presentation of an army like this. I'll have to learn Spanish then, won't I? I don't know, Spike. It's interesting observation, though. But it's the thing, isn't it? We're getting back to that whole kind of um, that kind of political sort of thread that's in there. Yeah, it's not to overplay it because it's not like um, it's not super prominent like it would be in something like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but it's interesting that that sort of stuff is threaded in there because it's the sort of thing that gets under people's skin. It just sort of sits right in the background and kind of it kind of adds to the ambience of the story. Sometimes on a kind of almost sort of subconscious level. And it's not to say that that's even deliberate, but having that kind of idea as a story writer, I think, is very important because it gives you that kind of anchor for how to tell a story and how to make it kind of effective and play with an audience. It just elevates a story a bit above being just kind of event one, event two, event three, event four. It's not just cause and effect. There's this underlying kind of tension which is grounded in this idea, and that's as much a tool for the writer, motivation and stuff for the writer, as it is necessarily something which plays directly to an audience. Good night, Kieran. Everybody's up for an early night tonight, aren't they? Bugging me, I've never seen this film before, and yet I didn't know Paul Sorvino, isn't it? It's one of the things with a lot of the movies at this sort of time and kind of nature, isn't it? That you get a lot of kind of familiar faces sort of popping up. It's often at the beginning of their careers and that kind of stuff. Right back. Thank you, Kerry. You know, it's the finale. Now we've got the heroic music sort of kicking in. I do love that line. We've never won. We've never lost a war. What about Vietnam? It's great little miniatures in this, isn't there? I do love the art of kind of like making practical effects and stuff like that. It's such a shame that people kind of treat it with such disdain these days and just go, oh no, it just looks crap. It's like, no, it doesn't. It really doesn't. It's just got a kind of visual aspect to itself. Meanwhile, at the Overlook Hotel, yeah, it does kind of look like that, doesn't it? Maybe it was. It's definitely got that feel like the Blob remake, hasn't it? Because that's one of the things with the Blob remake, which is one of my favourite films. I love that film. The special effects have become a lot more apparent, especially with the high def kind of remasters and stuff like that. But it's still a great film. But you just seen with like the scene that's just gone by, you get those optical effects and the composite images and all that kind of stuff, which just the edges of it are kind of a bit more apparent these days. You didn't see most of that when it was on VHS. Oh, by the way, if my brother's out there, hi Gary. We should chat sometime. I suspect he's watching. I think he likes this film as well. Films at this time period were never meant to be seen in high definition. I mean, that's true to an extent. The original presentation, original filming would have been reasonably of a reasonable definition. But of course, the way most of us sort of experienced these films was on cassette. So it is one of those funny things, though, when it came to VHS and explaining it to younger people today. It's like what a seismic shift it was in the world of watching movies. You know, the experience of watching movies. I mean, most of the films that I love, I first experienced on cassette, and prior to that, there were so many films I just could not watch because no cinemas were ever going to show them again. Yes, man's likely lurking. He likes to keep himself to himself. But yeah, watching those. I remember the first time I went into a video store. I walked past a few, you know, for a while before, because it took us a while to actually get a video cassette player. But I distinctly remember going into this store called Trax in Melton Mowbray. You'd have to go up this staircase, and then you go up there, and then suddenly there's just this treasure trove of movies. Walls and walls of them. I mean, you look at it these days, it probably look, you know, from the later blockbuster days, I should say, and it would look quaint in how small it was and how limited the range was in some respects. But it was actually a lot more interesting because those were the days when all the films were, the vast majority of the VHS that were on the shelves were kind of lesser known films. But just seeing all those movies, and it's just like kind of, oh wow, you know, where do you start? Trying to transfer your tapes to DVD. It's not too hard. I mean, I haven't reconnected it just like at the moment. This thing, I need to update it at some point, but there's more current versions of that. If you just plug your VHS into there and then just use some video capture software on top of that, job done. Loved his line. Loved his line about his own. Keep rolling, keep rolling. There's always something for me which is so much more honest about movies like this, you know, because they're on such a tight budget. To a certain extent, you know, the troubled parts of the films in terms of kind of like how it's produced and that kind of stuff is part of the character of the film for me. Sammy Davis Jr. is an interesting guy. Some of his stories are very kind of quite powerful, you know, in relation to how he was kind of dealt with as a black man. He was very successful and all that kind of stuff, but it didn't mean that his career wasn't heavily troubled by certain things. Have you transferred your original tapes to the digital? Most of them, yes. See, that's a great effect. You got the bladder on the neck going wah, wah, wah. Oh, that is so twisted. Yeah, I try to. Sorry, this is I love this scene. I try to make sure that I digitize as much as I can of my video cassettes because some of them are genuinely interesting, specifically because they are cut. And it seems like the Boogeyman 2 and things like that. That's it's interesting to see those differences. Evil Speak's a really good example. See, this is the nerd in me. I'm kind of looking at that cable that he bought in. Right, okay. It's clearly an audio multi-core, right? So it's a signal level cable, so it's not like high voltage. That's why it's so fluffy. Really, Iris? Okay. So Alex Jones before Alex Jones was actually around. I do wonder if Alex Jones watched this movie and went, "That's the thing." Add a little salt, little pepper. Whole strawberries chopped up, shoved in there, a little bit of raspberry sauce. Am I the only one who thinks that burning and this stuff that's going on? It's a weird sort of flip in the dynamic of the movie in some respects because now it's sort of almost looking like the Nazi book burning kind of thing. Alex Jones, the aneurysm drug dodger. The Alex Joneses of the world really are the canary in the coal mine kind of thing. The test for freedom of speech. He's got a bit of a Dudley Moore about him, hasn't he, the guy on the left? See, the interesting thing about this scene for me is that I kind of wish this was not in the, at the gunpoint kind of thing, but any CEO type that kind of proposes something or kind of like pushes something, it should all be tested on them. Like with politicians and stuff like that, you should take away their nuclear bunkers, take away their protections on all that kind of stuff. Not necessarily in terms of security and that kind of stuff, but financial protections and other distractions. Just talk in America about stripping them the right of to own stocks and things like that, which I think is absolutely right. They should have nothing to do with the stock market at all. They should have no personal interest in that kind of stuff. But the CEOs of these companies that kind of push a product and stuff like that should be it almost should be tested on them. Yeah. See, that's what I find so satisfying about that scene. It's like, and it's exactly how people like that should be treated. I love it. It's just like, the stuff's now a drug. It's You want to get your original iron brew? I've got some original iron brew. There you go. It's right here. Look, it's good stuff. This stuff. I love the closing music to this. It sounds a bit Superman, doesn't it? Well, there you go. Well, that was fun. I always like watching it. I've watched this film probably about 8 or 9 times. Not as much as some people have, but I don't think I'll ever get bored of it. It's just a lot of fun. Just a great fun movie. Getting high on their supply, yes. That's the golden rule, isn't it? You don't take your own product. I was watching this thing, George Rockall Schmidt, and he did some stuff on the crikey, what's the name of the bloody drug? I'm trying to think of the name of the drug. Basically, there's this farmer family that kind of, I think it was Xanax, pushing this kind of this drug to the public, and they knew everything that was going on, everything that was going wrong, people getting hooked on it, and all that kind of stuff. Thousands upon thousands of deaths involved with this stuff, and massive increase in, because this stuff, I know the phrase gateway drug is one of those phrases that gets very, very abused, but it was certainly one of those things that was drove people onto other stuff because it was an opioid in its own right. And when doctors started taking it away, the only substitute for it was like kind of like taking heroin and stuff like that. And it was these people knew exactly what was going on. They'd seen the records, but they were still pushing it with doctors. You know, basically bribing doctors to prescribe it. I say bribing. They're wine them and dine them, kind of all that kind of stuff. You know, so they really did kind of very aggressively push this stuff and market it. It's one of those weird American kind of advertising things, like ask your doctor if this is a good fit for you kind of adverts and that kind of stuff. It's like, and it's absolutely bloody horrific. I'm just going to quickly check, see if I can find it what it is, because it really was a hell of a little. Ooh. What was it? Just gonna find it's right around here. That's the channel. Videos. Where were you? It was fairly recently. The Sacklers. Yeah, that's the one. Does he have a playlist for it? Right, this is not the first one in the case in the series, but I'll just drop this into the chat. You made it to the end, yes you did. I'll drop this in the chat because it's actually really quite interesting. I very highly recommend that you watch these because it's quite an interesting story. So go check that out. I love this channel, by the way. He's very interesting. I got into his stuff because he was talking about films and stuff like that. His stuff has gotten somewhat more political of late. It's a weird channel in some respects. He's got a character that he kind of does is a little bit. It is a little kind of off kilter, but it's kind of fun. We don't know if it's the end. No, that's the thing. The end? Question mark. That old cliche. But yeah, the shameful case of the Sacklers, and there's a whole. He did a whole bunch of these videos on this stuff, and it's absolutely fascinating. Very well researched, and presented in a simple but very kind of interesting kind of approach. But yeah. GRS is another great YouTuber. Yes, he is. Very underrated in my opinion. I'll show you. What's he got? 291,000 subscribers. Significantly more than me, but I'm just just a simple film critic of, I mean, I've just made us sit through the stuff, for fuck's sake. Oh dear. Hip tang. Yes. Have you ever paused it and read the all the crap that kind of comes underneath it? And it's like may cause diarrhea and yeah. He's an odd, odd, quirky kind of creator. Interesting, visually interesting, stylistically interesting, and his contents are very well thought out. So that's my shout out for the night, I guess. You've never seen It Alive? It's that. Yeah. It is on YouTube, but it's a paid for. How much is it? Buy or rent. 350. I mean, how do you guys feel about kind of like, watching stuff that you pay for on YouTube if it's like, £3.50, £4? And if you guys are up for it, then, I'm happy to kind of look into doing that. So just let me know on that. Never seen The Deadly Spawn. Now, Deadly Spawn was one of those films that I remember seeing a trailer for it on a VHS years and years ago. I never actually got to see the film for a very long time. And it's just like... I spent years and years trying to think about that and Parasite. Parasite was the big one, but yeah. Isn't it funny when you kind of like go, I remember this trailer and this and that happened, and I can't think of the name. And you try through like IMDb. That was always a big game for me back like years ago, about like I guess 15 years ago. So me and a couple of other people got friendly on IMDb, and we'd try to figure these things out, which is quite good fun. Somebody would say, I remember this scene where this, that, and the other happened. And it would be like kind of like we'd go into like full-on detective mode if we didn't already know it and kind of figure that stuff out. Parasite was the one particularly for me that... because you had that scene where the parasite drops onto the face of the woman who's doing the makeup. She's got the woman doing her makeup, and so she looks up and this thing goes splat on her face. And she sort of like the next bit you see is a kind of like a little time lapsey sort of kind of thing, and the face is all kind of bruised and all this sort of stuff, and it sort of expands a bit and then kind of explodes, and this thing comes out. And it took me years to figure out what that movie was. Parasite with Demi Moore in 3D, that's the one. I wouldn't pay to watch something on YouTube. Well, if the full versions are free, then that's one thing. But occasionally there'd be... I mean, whether you watch it on Prime or YouTube or whatever. Because some of them are like that, so... Did I say lava lamp? Yeah, the skull here's the lava lamp. Yes. See, what I would love to do with those things, right, is I'd like to get them with like a very, very clear but slightly viscous fluid, with some kind of glittery material in it. But what I would have is underneath it. You get those kind of scientific sort of mixer plates. Essentially, it's like it's a magnetic plate, and you put this little kind of capsule into the fluid, and that thing sort of spins the little mixer inside the vessel. So it'd almost be like something like that. That'd be kind of fun. But yeah. Deadly Spawn in the 80s. I think I saw the Deadly Spawn in the 80s. It was probably cut. Yeah, that's the weird thing. Some of them were, some of them weren't. A lot of people kind of think that anything pre-shirt was uncut, and it wasn't. It certainly wasn't the case. The Boogeyman 2, for instance, was heavily cut. There's a lot of stuff cut from that movie. To the point that if anybody the only version that they saw was that, they go, what was the big deal? I mean, even when you see the full version, to be honest, it's a bit like, what's the big deal? But but we'll have a think about, like I said, I think next week is likely to be possible for me to do something. But going on from there, it's going to be very, very kind of sporadic, because my working calendar is a little bit mental, to say the least. So yeah, just energy wise, I'm going to be kind of all over the place. But what I will be trying to do is getting the Zardoz review done, and a few other bits and pieces if I can kind of get my shit together enough to actually do it. I'm really looking forward to having a holiday. I'm hoping. I'm very, very tempted to go down to the Cornish coast. I really like the idea of spending 5 or 6 days down in Cornwall, kind of exploring down there with my camera and stuff like that. That would be so much cool. So cool. I would love to do that. And the thing is, I'm getting so old because I'm sort of looking at that and going, I just want to go somewhere where there's very, very little other than really nice things to look at. I don't want Disneyland. I don't want any of that kind of stuff. One of the things I would really, really like to do is I would like to go visit Finland. Hopefully before Putin invades. But would he do that? Well, last time they did that, they kind of got their asses kicked. Kind of badly. Going to suggest the 1974 film Abby. It's on YouTube and is a belter of a film. Well, put it into the Ramble-Holics and stuff like that, and we'll have a look at that, and we'll make a decision on what we're going to watch next week. I think that would be, yeah. I'm pretty sure we'll be doing something next Friday, probably. Sounds pretty reasonable, and we'll make it a double bill. I'll get extra beer in. So I've got about a bottle and a half left of my beer. It seems woefully inadequate to sit through with another movie. But I'll say this, I hope everybody's had a good time tonight. We'll make a bigger deal of it next week because I think it will be kind of like, it's going to be longer gaps and stuff between, or at least kind of like more random gaps between shows. Crikey. The Hell's Angels, Hell's Scooters. What are Hell's Angels on scooters? What would you call them? Hell's Minions? I don't know. But yeah, we'll make a bigger deal of it next week because it's going to be a bit more sporadic going forward until the summer. So we'll try and have a good time. Find a couple of films which will get everybody sort of a good time. So I'll just say, it's good to see you back, Spike. Missed you, man. And everyone else, thank you for coming. I think I'm going to call it an evening here and just chill out and hopefully stay awake for at least another hour. And then try and enjoy the rest of the weekend and get some writing done. So good night, folks. Thanks for coming. And yeah, the stuff was excellent, wasn't it? Loved it.